Tom Bretman.
Absolutely, I think it's something that can only be good. You know, we are students who are paying a lot, but when we pay our fees, they do cover things like when we pay our rent, we pay for our heating. If our heating's inefficient, that's contributing to carbon emissions, and it's also increasing the sort of cost to students' wallets. So I think absolutely we should be doing that. And obviously, there's the wider issue of the fact that climate change is a danger for the world, and we should be, as a sort of one of the best academic institutions in the world, not only saying this climate change is a problem, but actually showing leadership and taking efforts to reduce our impact.
Yeah, it's absolutely important. I think that's something that OUSU is doing already anyway. If you think about it, one of the campaigns that OUSU is about environmental ethics, and we already have a part-time officer for that as well. Having said that, it might not be publicised enough. I think that's something for the role of the next VP in attracting communities to that area that needs to help with that.
Cool. Thank you. Question far at the back.
Yeah, this is just kind of rephrasing the EGS question, but do you think OUSU has a role to play in issues of solidarity that aren't issues for students, or that are directly issues that OUSU can change? So, for example, Scouts, or things that are going to relate to students like climate change, but just issues that are entirely based on solidarity. So, for example, supporting BTS or supporting, even just supporting the October the 20th march. Like, is there a role for OUSU and anything like that?
Easy question.
But I think what you just said there are all student issues. Anyway, Scouts is definitely something that we can influence. We have shown in the past in living ways that OUSU can. And I think the same with national demonstrations. This is about students not only in Oxford, within the UK, and there's no reason why OUSU can't have a role to play in that as well.
Yeah, I think OUSU should affiliate itself with a group of people or any campaign that it sees itself as akin to, and certainly, we see that when it passes motions in council. We do things that aren't necessarily directly related to students, like we do boycott advertising and things like of companies like Nestle, which have done horrendous things in Africa. And I think it's absolutely right we do that, and I think students should be able to express their opinion. If they don't want to support such campaigns, it won't be passed to council.
Thank you. Let's take a question down.
One of the greatest dangers for sabbatical officers, especially in the past few years, has been exhaustion and burnout and debilitating health problems due to workload. So you have all said many things about adding to your own workload with your new ideas, and you know you're going to take on a lot of inherited projects because you've all said that they're really great ideas and you want to continue them. And then you both said that there's a mountain load of admin tasks to be done, and there's probably not going to be a communication person hired. So how will you balance your life and make sure that you are taking care of you and that you are striving for health in this job? Because you're not an undergrad, you can't push yourself for 8 weeks and then fall down dead at night. You still have to get up and go to work. So what is the one thing that you will prioritize in taking care of yourself?
Thank you for that question.
Hopefully I'll still be quite fresh-faced if I win at the end of the year and sort of not have too much grey hair. But I think it's about a couple of things. It's about communicating, making sure you're helping each other as a team, and that you're spreading the workload, that you're choosing prioritised goals. You think, as a JCR president, there are a couple of things that I just couldn't get done in my year, but I've made sure that I could get other things done by saying, I'm not going to get those done, but these ones I definitely can do. And I think it's also about sort of getting a good night's sleep and sort of being able to just separate work from sort of relaxation. And that sounds really like new age, but yeah.
Is it whispering?
I think the best advice that I was ever given was, well, actually this was before I became president of the union, was to pick 3 key areas. And then what you've got to do is make sure you work on those 3 key areas before you even arrive in office. Because by the time you're in office, like you said, you're just inundated with the stuff you've already got to do and the mountains of work on top of that. And I think it's about prioritising that. And I think for me, communication is the priority on top of that. I think that there is a work that has to be cut, and I think there are areas that can be cut. I've already talked about efficiency and savings in that respect. And I think that communication is the one thing that can't.
Excellent. Yes, I see another question. Yeah.
Where is the most acute access problem for students in this university, and where is the most acute financial problem for students in this university? Is it in the same place?
Izzy Westbrook.
I think on access, we actually have to start looking a lot closer to home. I think a lot of people forget that Blackburn is the biggest council estate in Europe, and there's some of the poorest state schools there, and some of the biggest misconceptions about Oxford come from there. All of the colleges at the moment are linked to different states, different areas across the country. But we need to start looking at our own backyard, and this is where we're talking about the making the links between specific colleges and specific schools, really struggling underperforming schools that don't know about this £9,000, well, that think there's a £9,000 fee barrier. And this is where we can start making, building links and forming these academies between the colleges. That's where I think the biggest problem is, this misconception and struggling state schools at the moment, we're falling on the radar.
Are you talking about them?
The biggest access problem is our sort of unrepresentativeness as a university, as a student body. You know, at the undergraduate level, we're not at all reflective of the makeup of the state school students and private school students at all. And you know, I think that's unacceptable. We need to do more. I've already talked about how I want to bring more teachers into schools, how I want to work closely with individual schools and sort of turn them into hubs for their areas within the target school regions to make sure that there's someone somewhere who will always be able to talk to someone in that region about applying to Oxford to encourage them to do so. And in terms of financial problems, I think this is an interesting one. I don't know if it's necessarily exactly the same, because once you get here, if you're from an extremely deprived background, the provisions are actually pretty good when you add together the Oxford Opportunity bursaries and the college level bursaries. I think it comes more at post-grad level, and also, I hate to use the phrase squeeze middle, but a lot of people find that their loans don't make up their costs, and that's why I've already campaigned for increased student loans for students in expensive cities.
Do you think there is also an element of access problem in international students? And is that access problem bigger than the domestic problems?
I mean, there's a big cap on international fees at the national level at the moment, and I think as graduates as well, it's a huge problem. And I think no one's actually offered a viable solution in which to go forward with that. And I think it's not something just affects Oxford, but it affects every university in the country. And I think we need to think not just about the fee, but we have to think about the practical issues, like the accommodation and having to live during the vacation in very expensive rooms, about the storage. Believe it or not, I'm an international student. I never find anywhere to put my bed stuff and everything each year, and it's a huge problem.
You might benefit from one of our policies in our Vice President Welfare and Equal Opportunities Manifesto, where we talk about increasing that storage for international students, because we want to make sure they are able to bring in that stuff and leave it here in the vacation so they've got everything they need. I think also our vacation residence idea, you know, we want to make sure that international students, we want to work with colleges to try and get a reduced back res for students who have to stay here over the vacation because they've got no other choice. Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate your VP taking the credit for that, but it's something that I think is common to everybody running an election as well, who has a concern about international students, is trying to increase this, increase the storage. But it's more difficult on a practical level. Where are you going to find the place to increase that storage?
I think you've got to work with colleges to see rooms that are underused, because I've certainly found in my college there's a lot of meeting rooms that go entirely unused, and certainly in vacation less meetings are held. And I think also we've got to make sure that when colleges are building new accommodation blocks, and we see colleges are building all the time, they're building enough or even more than enough of that set of new rooms, vacation storage, to make up sort of the gap that currently exists.
Thank you.